Diversity and inclusion is an extremely key aspect of our work within fairness, transparency, and accountability to ensure greater equity and social justice within the field of AI. The problem that we see in this space that we are trying to address through our work is that the field of AI still suffers significantly from various D&I challenges. And although we're seeing a lot of organizations invest in various D&I initiatives, there's still a lack of clarity around what works and what doesn't work, and especially what some of the unique cultural factors might be within the field of AI. As a result of this, we'll be launching a research project very soon in fall 2020 to examine a few key questions, including what cultural factors affect inclusivity in AI workforces, what organizations can do to address issues of attrition of women, minorities, or others due to these inclusivity concerns, and then finally, what are some best practices for D&I initiatives. So to speak further about this project that we'll be launching, Jeff Brown, who is a research fellow at PAI, will be discussing the work that he's doing in that space. And Jeff is also joining us joining us from Minnesota State University, Mankato, where he is an assistant professor of psychology.
So first, I'll go through the outline of my DEI project. The goals I'll talk about a little bit first. So basically why this project is necessary and why PAI is doing this project. And just a little bit about our approach. I'm going to talk a little bit about our methods. So in this case, it would be talking about how I'm going to go about my interviews and my questionnaires. And then this project is designed with potential impact in mind. So I'll close out with that. Now, this is just an overview. I'll go into the specific pieces of this a little bit later on, but the goal of this project is to create research products that investigate attrition in women and minoritized individuals in AI. And when I say minoritized individuals, I really mean individuals who are underrepresented. So think Black people, Latinx people, Asian people, and so on. But also people of diverse abilities, people who identify as having a disability, people who are gender diverse, people who are, LGBTQ identified. That's what I mean when I say minoritized individuals in working in AI. And this project really approaches the question of attrition, or why folks leave AI or leave AI teams from the point of view of doing interviews and questionnaires. So there is some research that has been done on this topic, but doing interviews before we even do questionnaires will allow us to delve deeply into some of the reasons why. The questionnaires are more meant to establish patterns, are meant to maybe get more representative samples or more representative picture of what's going on. And we use the results of the interviews to launch into the questionnaires. We designed this project so that partners could integrate the recommendations. We want all the recommendations coming from this project to be concrete as we could, and to also be able to integrate the findings of this project to make the space more diverse and inclusive. And of course, PAI has committed to supporting diverse and to support inclusive practices in the field of AI, which is why I think it makes an ideal agency to do this project, along with its multi-stakeholder model. So a little bit more about the project. Essentially, the DEI, attrition, recruitment, and retention are challenges, and that's things that we know from various studies that have been done in the past. So in terms of recruitment, we have stumbling blocks or there have barriers such as lower access to high quality information and things like role models. Whereas attrition, the stats are equally abysmal. We have 20% of LGBT employees reporting embarrassment or humiliation, and 25% of people belonging to minoritized identities leaving positions within the last few years. So the result of all this is that you have fewer women and minoritized folks working in AI. And this is essentially what this project will aim to get at. And we could look at the pipeline or we could look at attrition. So a pipeline, I'm more talking about things like K-12 or STEM access in college. And actually a lot of people have looked at this issue from the pipeline perspective. They've looked at what are the underlying systemic challenges, what are mentorship programs that can be done, what are, anti-bias trainings and hiring, like what could we do about that? But far fewer people have looked at attrition. So, women and minoritized individuals report work environment that are not inclusive. And a lot of things have been tried, such as DEI trainings or mentorship programs or other such trainings, but we don't have a lot of consistent evidence on what works. So that's exactly why this project is so important. We want to find exactly what works across multiple stakeholders in the AI space. So we essentially asking one overarching research question, which is, why do these people lead these teams? But within this overarching research question, we could split it into smaller ones. So why do these people lead these teams? What are some characteristics of these teams in which minoritized individuals or women thrive? And do the teams look like where these individuals do not thrive? And essentially, what can we do about this issue now that when we establish the reasons why? And this study will initially dive really deeply into qualitative research. So we'll look at characteristics of teams that are quote unquote diverse and quote unquote non-diverse. So on teams that are diverse, what is the culture like? How do managers respond to instances of discrimination? How safe and supported do the employees feel? And essentially, we want to ask three separate categories of people in this research. One, to look at the bigger picture. We want to ask folks working in the AI space in big tech companies, but also civil society or society organizations, and also smaller tech companies. We're keeping the definition of those working in AI a little bit more broadly because we don't want to miss folks who may be doing AI work, but may not necessarily identify as an AI team, so to say. The next category person that we want to recruit for this study are managers. And the third category, women and minoritized individuals working in this space. Essentially, we want the qualitative research to feed right into the quantitative research, where we could maybe establish broader patterns. The surveys, we can sample a lot more people. For the interviews, we were only sampling around 60 people. And so we want the surveys to maybe codify some of the experiences that we hear about in the surveys. After all this, we want the results of these studies to feed into, something like a multimedia product, such as YouTube video or things that people can take back to them, both partners and those outside the partnership as well. We want real products that people can take back with them to serve as a resource. So going a little bit more deeply into that, we're looking at research products. So we're looking at a conference paper. So right now we're thinking CSCW, and also an executive summary stemming from this that could be disseminated more widely, a lot shorter than a research paper, that we could disseminate more widely to audiences and maybe, tap into some maybe mass media sources, things like Medium articles, things like that. And again, a series of videos for AI practitioners and companies. YouTube videos and such, like free content, has been very accessible and used very effectively in previous trainings. And we're hoping that this could be an educational tool that people could access and use. In terms of the timeline, we're deep into participant recruitment, or actually we're just about to launch participant recruitment. And we're using the results of some of these pilot interviews that I've been doing, both internally, or mainly internally, and also even before doing these pilot interviews, I've been having a lot of conversations with folks in these various spaces to really approach this study from a pretty informed perspective. So we're hoping to conduct interviews starting October and throughout November, potentially December. And as the results from the interviews pipe in, we're hoping to use that to design questionnaires and then distribute that as soon as we can. We're looking for the products to form around the February to April period. And just going a little bit more into the methods, I spoke a little bit more about the recruitment of participants earlier, but I'll say a little bit more about ethical project design. We wanted to make this project as participatory as possible and as transparent as possible. So participants will be kept informed every step of the way about how are we using the data we're collecting, what methods we're doing to keep their data private and secure. So we're being very transparent about that whole process, as well as asking permission if we use, things like quotes for any part of our research products. I'm also going to make sure to redact any personal or private information, personally identifying information from the project. The interviews will be about 45 to 60 minutes long, and we're looking for 60 total. In terms of the surveys, we're using that, we're hoping for the 200 to 300 range of respondents, which could maybe extend to more based on the level of interest that we have in it. And so this is summarizing what I said before, right? Going from hypothesizing what are potential differences between the teams all the way to making recommendations whilst framing that within wider DEI efforts. Again, I went about this earlier. We're looking at protecting participants, and we are being very intentional about these ethical steps as well. We're hoping the interviews will bring broad themes, and we're hoping maybe more in-depth themes, and we're hoping to stretch some of those in-depth themes into the questionnaires. And so, both team members and external partners, we're hoping for lots of support in this project, basically helping to spread there'll be a recruitment document that we'll seek help with in order to distribute and recruit folks from a wide range of places. Thank you.